Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Here on our webinar, we're going to be talking about better data, better business outcomes, guide decisions, and improve productivity with AVEVA PI and Grantek. I'd like to start today by laying down some guidelines and tips on how to get the most out of your time today. So first and foremost, try not to get distracted. I like to put my phone on Do Not Disturb, my Teams or Slack on Do Not Disturb, make sure your phone's away. Really try to get the most out of this next hour. We've got a lot of exciting content to cover. Next, please do use the chat. So you'll see in the window on today's webinar that there is a chat function. These chats will come directly to Grantek as the host of the webinar. So feel free to put in any questions, comments, anything you want to discuss today right into that chat. Take notes. You as a registrant of the webinar will receive a recording. So do know that you'll have that at the end of the webinar. You'll receive that. But please do take notes and jot down any questions that you have throughout that you want to follow up with us afterwards, or send them throughout during the webinar. And as we roll on, you will see some polls come up in the webinar. We do encourage you to participate. We really value your inputs and responses here. So please do engage with these polls. So on the agenda today, we're going to kick things off with some introductions, and you'll have a chance to meet our presenters today. We're then going to dive into data historians and really how these historians turn data into actionable information. We're going to take a closer look at the AVEVA PI system and the AVEVA certification process that integrators the journey that integrators have to go down in order to become AVEVA certified. We have a case study with one of our Grantek customers in the life sciences industry that we're going to provide an overview on. And then we're going to have Jason walk us through the AVEVA PI pricing model, talking about the new flex pricing model that AVEVA has released and the benefits to its customers. And lastly, we're going to give some tips on how to get started with AVEVA PI. So I'd like to release a poll question now, and you should see shortly in the webinar platform a poll question coming up. So what are you hoping to gain from today's webinar? Are you looking to better leverage the PI system to manage your data? Are you trying to find out why AVEVA PI is a leader in data historians, or are you here for something else? And if it's something else, please feel free to drop that in the chat. Okay, it looks like lots of people are curious to know why AVEVA PI is a leader in data historians, so we'll work to answer that today. No pressure. Okay, with that, we're going to do some introductions. So my name is Alissa Daly, and I'm a Senior New Business Development Manager here at Grantek. I'm based out of our Burlington, Ontario office. And I've been with Grantek the last 7 years. I've had the privilege to work with our customers and partners, helping to solve some of the most complex challenges in manufacturing. We're joined today by Jason Jacobs, and Jason is the Sales Director for CIMSOFT AVEVA Select Canada East. And Jason's been focused on solving customer concerns for over 25 years, focused on what to do with your data, how to consume it, and how to apply current market trends like AI and big data. Jason owns the customer portfolio for the AVEVA distributor in Eastern Canada and Ontario, helping to transform companies into productive, efficient operations. And Jason has been working alongside Grantek throughout our journey to become AVEVA PI certified, and has been a huge help with our customers at Grantek. So thank you, Jason. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're also joined by Chris Whiteford, and Chris is a lead industrial IT and software designer here at Grantek. Chris has more than 15 years experience in industrial automation and uses his deep understanding of technology to deliver high quality business-focused solutions to our customers. He has acted as networking and infrastructure subject matter expert on numerous Grantek projects, including large-scale enterprise systems. And Chris also holds several certifications, including the PI System Installation and Infrastructure Specialist Certification. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
Hello.
Okay, one more quick poll, and then we're going to jump into some of the content here. So for our viewers today, which industry are you joining us from? Are you in food and beverage, life sciences, another industry? And so far, it looks like the majority is food and beverage on the webinar today. Quite a few, actually. So lots of food and bev. Okay. So with that, we're going to jump into some of the content for today's webinar, beginning with how data historians turn your data into actionable information. And we're going to begin with a quick general chat about your data. So you may have seen a graphic like this before. It's a popular way to break down a company's maturity around how they use data and information that they get from their systems. So looking at the bottom layer of this pyramid, once you have any kind of data that you can just display on a screen, you're providing descriptive data around what's happening right now. And descriptive data is necessary for most manufacturers. We need to know what items have shipped. We need to be able to inform operators of how systems are running. We need to be able to show critical control points that were kept within acceptable bounds in our manufacturing. And now this isn't to say that everyone has this layer of descriptive data that they need or want. There can, of course, be islands of automation that can be closed systems, and that can pose some very real challenges in getting this descriptive data. But most of us are using descriptive data in our everyday lives somehow. And as we get into the higher layers of the pyramid, adoption and maturity can really vary from industry to industry, company to company, and sometimes even from line to line within a single plant. So the next layer, this diagnostic analytics, tells you why the descriptive data is happening. So OEE can be a really good diagnostic metric. For instance, we didn't make our production numbers for the line. Well, we can look into OEE and determine that we ran the line at full speed, but we had 10%, we took a 10% hit due to downtime and a 40% hit due to quality issues, for instance. So in this case, let's focus on how we can bring our quality numbers up. Next, we look at predictive analytics, and this is one of really the most rapidly growing spaces in manufacturing. Being able to anticipate the breakdown or production event before it even happens. So predictive analytics has matured very quickly for use cases that span several industries. Predictive maintenance on models for pumps or motors, for instance. And the next big step here is more process-specific predictive analytics that are tuned to solve particular manufacturing challenges. And then with that, beyond predictive, we get into more prescriptive at the top of the pyramid. So now we're not only predicting the future, but we have automated systems in place that can recommend the best path forward to make the most optimal outcomes. And the reason we're starting with this information at the beginning of this webinar is really to get you thinking about data and get you thinking about where your company is succeeding and where you may be struggling when it comes to data and how you're using it. You can probably think of various parts of your organization that are at different maturity levels on the spectrum. And we really wanted to put this forefront to get you thinking about where you are in your data maturity model or journey. And as we start thinking about that data that's captured, we can start looking at some key use cases for the data that's captured by historians. So things like legal and compliance verifications, power and energy monitoring, I know is a big one for Jason's customers, and we've seen that rising as a rising use case for our customers. Troubleshooting, of course, track and trace serialization, optimization in your processes, and identifying root cause. Of course, investment justification, data talks, money talks, but data talks. So we're seeing data captured by these types of historians in these various different use cases. Anything you wanted to add, guys, Chris or Jason, before we jump into really the AVEVA PI system as a historian?
All good.
All good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, with that, Jason, I'm going to hand it over to you so you can talk us through the AVEVA PI system as a data historian.
Okay, thanks, Alissa. First of all, just thanks to Grantek for having me on this call. Really appreciate the opportunity to work together with these guys. This slide is really, about a couple things. It's about AVEVA really coming together. We used to be known as Wonderware. AVEVA purchased them. Now AVEVA adds a lot of engineering and different aspects to that. And most recently, about 2 years ago, they purchased the OSI or PI system, now referred to as AVEVA PI. And you can see this is a great move because this is kind of controlling a lot of the data in most of the industrial facilities. And as soon as you have that data as a whole, then you can apply all those neat trends that are in the bottom there. And if you participate in any software presentations, you'll see this: big data, IoT, cloud, artificial intelligence, digital twin, and connected worker. Now, all of those are really critical to have the data as a set. So you first have to figure that out, and then you can do all these interesting things, which are trending and also very important, right? So, again, following the same themes as the other things: better data, smarter decisions with that data, so you can basically optimize your plant more effectively. So this is just a coming together slide, and just wanted to show that AVEVA is part of PI. PI now is all in one, and that's the story for this slide. Okay, next slide. So this slide is really just kind of defend that PI is very commonly used in many of the industries you guys are participating in. I see that the poll, most people are in food and beverage, and I personally deal with a lot of local customers, the McCain's, the Agripors, these multi-million-dollar companies that have OSI PI installed from an enterprise perspective. You can see some of the stats here. 25 of the 25 top pharmaceuticals have PI systems. And I can echo that because I do talk to some of them locally here in Mississauga and so forth. The comment there about the power, I think PI's, I've been on a bunch of presentations, I think PI relates to about 98% of the power generated in the US flows through a PI server somewhere. So you can see that is very prominent, installed base. And you can see some of the other ones: crude oil, natural gas, process, mining is very popular, and even some of the water municipalities around here are using PI as a standard. So very large installed base, and you can know that there's a good reason why all these big companies are using PI. It's because it's solid, it's solidified, it's got a great community, and so forth. So just wanted to echo that and let you guys know that you're getting into an area that a lot of other people are already in. Thanks. Next slide.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. And Chris, why don't you go ahead and walk us through this slide, kind of talking about manufacturing systems as you've seen them evolve over the years.
Yeah, so this slide is actually really great, unfortunately, picture of a lot of the kinds of situations that we see in manufacturing and in businesses in general. We have systems that have been built up over time and systems that have organically grown as different components are added or required or needed, and different outputs and outcomes are needed by the data consumers and other business operational folks. You can see here we've got kind of a whole bunch of different things outlined where we have data coming from just a whole host of different sources, things like our SCADA systems or DCS systems. And oftentimes those systems need to talk to a historian. They need to talk to our ERP for capacity and planning purposes. And then we have other systems like our asset reliability systems or LIMS or just various other components that all talk together, and they're all intertwined. And because these systems and because of all of these requirements have grown over the years, there tends to be this kind of spaghettification of the way that our data flows through all of these systems. It makes things a little bit hard to maintain. It makes things hard to understand. And it often makes things hard to use. There's a lot of complexities and manual processes that are part of all this. You see Excel in there. Oftentimes Excel is the, the linchpin of a lot of different processes, and it's not the best way to do things. There are better ways to do it. And that's where, if Alissa, if you want to jump to our next slide, that's where we can start to see the systems that we can put in place and the simplification that we can achieve by leveraging the AVEVA PI kind of host of components. You can see here there are a few different pieces. There's the AVEVA PI server, an on-prem historian that becomes a central repository for all of your data. There's the AVEVA Edge Data Store, which is a nice, easy way for us to get data from remote assets, data from IoTs, gateways, and other various sensors into reliably our AVEVA PI server for our historical purposes and our data analytics purposes. There's also then the AVEVA Data Hub, which is a cloud-based solution that lets us take our data, push it up to the cloud, and then fuel all of these new AI and ML platforms and analytic platforms that we can use to consume and analyze and work with that data. The AVEVA PI server also gives us the flexibility to feed our data to a host of visualization, analytic, and other apps and tools to allow us to use that data and to start working our way up that pyramid that Alissa showed us at the beginning to take the data and make it more valuable and let us make better business decisions so that we can save money and we can optimize our processes, we can learn, and we can make more money. So you want to jump to the next slide for me, Alissa?
Absolutely. Yeah, I like from what was it, spaghettification to simplification. Jason, you might want to see if AVEVA wants to use that one.
we might want to use that. But I want to add in here about the data hub. Like AVEVA is spending a lot of money in the development of that. And it's not just Pi in the cloud. It's a newer technology that allows you to take all those disparate databases and merge them in that cloud environment and relate data with other data, right? So, it's not just a historian. These are like a data management tool. It's not just a data where you're sticking it in a SQL database. This is like the tools around it to make it a data system. So just want to kind of highlight that. This is one of the spots that AVEVA is probably spending the most money is that data hub, right? So you'll see new improvements all along the way for that to come out. So, but all good.
Excellent, thanks. And Chris and Jason, when I first joined this industry and I started researching what is a data historian, I saw in my research time and time again that at that time OSI PI and now AVEVA PI is king. So why are we seeing AVEVA PI everywhere? What really makes the AVEVA PI platform stand out?
And that's really about the items that we've outlined on this slide, right? AVEVA PI, NE OSI PI, it's been around for a while. Its purpose in life is to store your data and give you access to that data quickly. It's been built to be a highly scalable system so that as your business grows, it can grow with you and you won't run into situations where you need to make drastic architectural changes to the setup. Its data integration really lets you use that data that you are now collecting in a multitude of ways. It doesn't lock you into only using it with one system or visualizing it in one way. It gives you that flexibility to use it however you see fit to be able to best use that data to turn it into information for your business. It allows you to collect that real-time data and see that real-time data. So it not only lets you keep historical data, but it lets you work with your real-time data. And it lets you optimize and monitor things in real time while also having that underlying component where that data is now being archived and saved efficiently. The historical data storage is that efficient storage of that data. The system, AVEVA PI has been built to store essentially what we call time series data. It's a timestamp and some kind of associated data for that point in time. Relational databases aren't great at this. Things like Microsoft SQL Server, you can do it, but eventually the volume catches up to you and it's not really the best way to do it. Using a purpose-built time series database or time series storage system is the way to go. That's what AVEVA PI is, right? There is also a whole suite of analytics and visualization tools that are in the AVEVA PI world. They let you take that information, take that data, and display it, visualize it, and run analytics, either continuous and on-the-fly analytics or point-in-time snapshot analytics, all to really help you understand what's going on and to best see what your processes are doing so that you can make those critical business decisions. AVEVA PI also from the ground up has security built in. It was designed such that every point, every item in the system can have individual security applied to it. So you can control who can change it, who can see it, and who can modify things. So in one of our previous slides, we talked about, regulatory requirements. So for validated systems and for systems in the pharmaceutical world and even the food and beverage world, as we have more food safety regulations coming into play, you can ensure that the data is safe and secure and isn't modifiable by people or systems that aren't allowed to modify it. So for audits and for traceability, you can guarantee to regulatory bodies that that data is safe and secure and is a true reference of what it was when it was collected. The customization standpoint feeds into all of this. You can customize any part of this system. You can build your own collection systems if required. If you have some strange and weird system that we know all exists in the manufacturing world, those systems can be brought in and feed data into the PI system. On the flip side of it is if you want to use your data in some way, there are ways and APIs to get that data out of the PI system and use it in any other systems you want to use. So there's a great deal of customization and flexibility in the AVEVA PI world. And that ties into our last point, the ecosystem. AVEVA PI is a large and active ecosystem. There are a lot of partners, there are a lot of developers, and a lot of users. So there is a just multitude of options and opportunities to use different tools, different techniques, and different ways to work with the system and to get your data into the system, get your data out to the system, and do really useful work with that data. And Grantek is a great partner who can help with those kinds of things as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. And that's a great segue into our next topic. So as I mentioned earlier, Grantek is AVEVA PI certified. It's a certification that we undertook over the last several years. And Jason was a really key player in helping to facilitate that certification. So maybe, Jason, if you could walk us through the journey that Grantek went down in order to achieve this esteemed certification.
Sure. So what AVEVA has is a certified program that most customers for any one of the products that AVEVA has, what we do is we have I want to say a stamp that allows us to stamp the SI that they're certified. Now, what this really means is the couple things here. They have to be they have to take a couple tests. So they have to have several people at their facility taking tests, and they have to score a certain amount. They have to be proven that they've run successful projects, which are vetted by AVEVA as well. And I want to highlight something really kind of key here is that Grantek is the only partner today that's PI certified in Canada. So this kind of shows how exclusive this club is and how hard it is to get certified. This is not an easy thing to do. You can see there on the side, I've kind of posted some of the things that are posted in the website. So AVEVA, if you go to AVEVA and you say select a partner and you say search for a partner and you select Canada, Grantek's the only one that's going to come up. As an addition, we posted on our website, so that's that website up top there, the CIMSOFT select. So we're very proud to publish these guys as our partners. And I think you can hear it from just the knowledge of Chris and Alissa on how well they know this product, right? So I work closely with them on working together with the pricing, putting together proposals, all this kind of stuff, and this creates a good partnership between us and them, knowing that if you're the customer and you wanted a trusted person, this is the official stamp to know you're getting into relationship with an SI that is knows what they're doing. Essentially, is what this is meant to do. So please check it out on these websites. But know in the back ahead that this is an important program that they've worked really hard to get to this point.
Excellent. Thanks, Jason. And I think, I mean, this journey, it was certainly a rigorous one that the team had to undergo, the training, the submitting the projects and going through the vetting process for AVEVA to actually contact the customers, go through the questionnaires that we went through. But in that, we've actually uncovered some really awesome case studies for our AVEVA projects. So next, I wanted to jump into one of our case studies, which is in the life sciences industry. And I will pass it over to Chris to walk us through the scenario that we were presented with one of our key customers in life sciences.
Yeah, thanks, Alyssa. So the case study that we're highlighting today is with a biomanufacturing company who Grantek implemented an AVEVA PI system for a new line that they put in at a facility. So we were involved in designing, supplying, and deploying of their new SCADA system. And as part of that, we also designed, supplied, and deployed a historian for them. That historian is a critical piece that they needed to use for regulatory compliance and for monitoring and data collection and archival of all of the new components and systems that are in the suites for the production area. And it was used really to drive the reporting aspect for their batching and product quality and release stuff, as a kind of a short summary of what kind of we did. So the customer that we worked with was very interested in having access to the data coming from a number of different machines. And they really had to have that data because their process was a very complex production line system. And they pushed Grantek and their other partners to bring this stuff online as quickly as possible. In the pharmaceutical world, we have the validation game that we have to play, and being able to work with Pi and have it connected to all of the various different machines and systems and components quickly and easily was a real key factor. The process that our client underwent was a complete renovation of an existing process suite area, and there were new bioreactors, bio-rockers, chromatography skids, tangential flow filtration. That's what TFF stands for, tangential flow filtration skids, washing and sterilization and autoclave systems, and then a number of other kind of validation systems and test systems for their products. And all of that had to be integrated and brought together. That data had to be able to be collected and contextualized with data from all of the different systems, so that we weren't just looking at one piece of information in isolation. We needed to be able to see that context and understand the full picture of the production process to really make sure that the data was turned into valid and useful information that they could then make their business decisions from. Jump to the next slide there. Thank you. So we built out for them a customized Pi historian system. It was a redundant system. All the components were set up on a virtualized cluster that had full redundancy. And we ensured that all of the integration of the third-party systems, as well as stick-built and on-site built systems, all worked. We made sure that any existing facility systems, such as BAS, HVAC, water, those sorts of systems, were integrated as well. And that the overall architecture was in such a state that for future equipment, as they expanded their production, increased their line capacity, was able to be brought in with little effort. So we also used the Pi Asset Framework as an add-on to the OSI Pi Historian to ensure that we had some nice kind of structured setup to all of the data and a common way of describing all of the different pieces. So Asset Framework gave us that capability and allowed us to tie all of the separate machines and separate systems together into one kind of coherent structure. This was used both to ease the use of it and to make it easy for the client to look through their data, generate on-the-fly reports and trending, but it also gave us some increased flexibility to allow for future expansion because we had templates set up so that anything new could be added in, and it would be added in the same way as existing stuff. So there wasn't any differences. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel each time. That asset framework also let us do customized reporting within the SCADA system and generate some very unique and flexible reports that the production staff could use both for support issues as well as compliancy and batching decision-making processes for release. So this is a good summary page of it. There was over 8,000 individual data points from 21 unique systems. That's a pretty significant number. That's a lot of data, and that's a lot of information flying around the network all the time. OSI, my apologies, AVEVA PI is great at collecting that efficiently and keeping it safe and secured for use as the client has needed. This was all done, as I said, in a validated environment. It was a brownfield facility that the construction process and the project scale out was very rapidly done. It was moving very quickly to ensure that our customer could meet their productivity goals and make sure that the product they're producing met the commercialization goals that they had designated for that production process. In the end, they were very happy with it. It's grown since we've installed it. The client continues to use it and add to it. And OSI, I keep saying OSI. I've been using this for so long time that
that's all right, Chris. Don't worry about it.
It's ingrained in my head. AVEVA PI has really allowed them to concentrate on their business and producing and making sure that what they're doing is efficient, and they can use all of the data that is collected and brought into the system and then analyzed to ensure that any choices and any decisions that they're driving is backed by all of that historical information, real-time information, and gives them that confidence that they fully understand what's happening with their production system.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I think it was a really fun project for Grantek to work on. As you said, our customer was really pleased with the result, and they continue to look to ways to utilize the AVEVA PI system. So, and I know we have quite a few guests joining us today that are from the food and beverage industry. So stay tuned. We do have other case studies with customers in food and bev industry. So reach out to us. We can certainly share those case studies as well. So next up, as we've been talking to more and more of our customers about the AVEVA PI platform, they've been asking us about the pricing model. And I know, Jason, that there was a recent change from perpetual licensing into more of a subscription with the AVEVA PI pricing, and maybe you could walk us through what exactly this means and what the benefits are for customers who are looking to get started with AVEVA PI.
Sure, no problem. So AVEVA Flex is not a new product by any means. It's probably been around for about 5 years, and what it is the ability to have all of the AVEVA portfolio in kind of like a credit system that allows you to trade up, trade over. Literally trade in a SCADA product, replace it with a PI product, or vice versa, without kind of coming to the commercial offering and asking for it. So when they did this, they also put a lot of the things that customers are asking for, like the support packages built in. They went to more of a OpEx versus a CapEx type philosophy, which is the subscription base. They've also put a lot of technical advantages that are inside of it. So if there was a Pro Edition, it was the Pro Edition they were adding to the Flex program. So many of the other things that are inside of there are, other components that commonly were not purchased. They added in as a bundle. I can give you some examples of that in the Pi when I show the next slide. But essentially, this program is designed to be flexible. It's multi-year. It locks in the price increase, which is a very important thing considering inflation today. So Essentially what happens is if you come to Grantek, they're going to supply the great work that's required as an SI, and we're going to supply the software in a flexible model, and combine that to the end user. So Flex is essentially a cost per credit, that every piece of Pi that's required has a certain credit allowance. So if you sign the next slide, I'll mention a couple things there. So this is just an example. There's many components, and I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. In this case, you're seeing a 1K, a 2K, and a 3K, what we refer to as Pi data infrastructure. Okay, so Pi data infrastructure is the components that you're kind of used to. Pi server, it's got some components in there that the connectivity pack, which is the driver set. So all the things you kind of need to kind of run a basic Pi server, and that requires 396 credits per year. The other nice thing about Flex is that you can go in and out of the program on a monthly basis. So that means that in a year, if you chose to use that for only 6 months, you'd consume only half that amount of credits, and you can use the other credits for something else out of AVEVA, or potentially buy Vision clients or something like that. So I've kind of summarized all the things that are inside the Flex, I guess, container here for the Pi offering. So they include things like server, Vision client packs, high availability nodes, which is your redundancy. You have your engineering, which is referred to as the PSA. You can buy test servers as well, or you can buy some additional things that, if you're having Pi talk to a Pi enterprise, which is called the aggregation package, or if you're sending data to other third-party systems, you need what they refer to as data link. Okay, so all of these have different credit amounts, and we'll build this system working with you and Grantek when we sit down and figure out what you need. And essentially, it's probably built of these 5 common things. We get a total credit amount. There's a cost associated with that. It's a 3-year program, and this is the design from AVEVA. They, like Alissa said, they really don't offer it in perpetual anymore. If you're in a perpetual existing agreement, they're going to try to get you into Flex. So, and I can kind of assure you, if I was to show you a list of all the logos in Ontario, and I was to pick the top 25 logos, probably in the neighborhood of 22 are going to be on the Flex program already. So this is not an uncommon thing. And give us a chance to explain some of these advantages besides the 5 minutes I'm giving you an overview. But there is a lot of benefit here. We can go into different things. It really depends, but this is a great program, and I'm just giving you the highlights of what's included and how we go about doing that. I believe next slide. So this is just a quick snapshot. So the nice thing about Flex is that we give you the opportunity to manage it yourself in what we call a Flex portal. So this Flex portal here you're looking at, basically you can understand where all your enterprise licenses are. So if you're a corporate function, you would have the ability to approve it. So the plant can't just order licenses, so to speak, or you can have a full authorization where you can buy it, and essentially you consume the credits and literally get the license the next day. So this is a great way to manage your tool set by yourself. We have access to this all the time, so we can help you figure out how to use all your credits effectively, and potentially show you new bundles that come about. And one thing I've seen with AVEVA is that they launched this program and they continuously put more and more into it, right? So Pi is only one component. We have our MES, we have our SCADA, we have our engineering all in here. So literally you could trade in this Pi and flip it to a digital twin E3D drawing if that's was your passion at your facility. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, but from a Pi perspective, it's in this program along with all our other products, and that's sort of how it works.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Super flexible. And I really do like the user friendliness of the Flex portal. Like you said, not having to reach out each time you want to make a change to your license or add something, remove something. I think it's a really great model.
Yeah, and several customers have like a credit pool that they keep kind of extra. So they kind of assign a budget, and then literally don't have to even call to add 5 new vision clients or whatever the case may be. So, you know, a
Right.
lot of customers managed it that way, or they traded something back in the year before, now they want to use it for something else, or they tried something for a month or two and said, no, that's not our thing, we want to try something else. So again, that flexibility, you know, well monitored, burn down rates, all that good stuff, and support all included inside the program naturally. It just makes it a lot easier from a lot of perspectives, including my own, for managing it. So.
Awesome. Okay, so next up, again, as we've been talking with our customers, some of the questions we've been asking, and I think actually one of the folks who registered for today's webinar, this was a question that they had, and it's really around, how do I get started, and what is the quickest, most cost-effective way to get started with AVEVA PI? So I know we've done collectively, we've put our heads together and made this readiness checklist. So maybe, Chris, you can kick us off and begin walking us through what a readiness checklist, so to speak, might look like for the AVEVA PI system.
Yeah, this is really about sort of that pre-thinking and that planning stage to ensure that you're really getting kind of the checks set up so that when the time comes to actually, you know, do your implementation, you've thought through all of the different pieces that have some real important drivers on how you do different things. So we've outlined a number of them here, right? Define your objectives and requirements. We really want to think through and understand what you want to get out of the system, what its purpose is. How are we going to identify which pieces of data we want to collect, which pieces of data that are important to store, and then which pieces of data that we're really then going to be using to do our analysis and our analytics and our decision-making processes. We want to figure out what kind of KPIs and metrics we want to track with regards to that. How are we figuring out that we're doing the right thing from our business's standpoint? We want to look at our current infrastructure. Earlier on, Alissa sort of said that sometimes there may be systems that are islands of automation, disconnected systems that we need to get data from. We need to understand where all of this data that we've identified is coming from. How are we collecting it? What kind of hardware and software and what kind of network infrastructure exists so that we can collect that data? Are there any changes or gaps that we need to identify, that we need to improve upon so that we can get that data? We want to figure out the right deployment option. We want to understand whether we're doing something that's on-premise or cloud, or if we're doing a hybrid installation. We want to understand the risks around redundancy and making sure that we know the critical data is being stored in a way that meets all of our, you know, risk level acceptance. We want to figure out how to engage the vendors and community. We want to see how folks like Grantek and AVEVA Select can help through the process. We want to leverage existing community knowledge and sort out all of the different pieces to help us with all of these checklists and understanding what we do. Grantek is a great resource for that. AVEVA Select is a great resource to help with those kinds of things. We can then start planning for our data integration. We can develop that strategy of how we're going to pick the data sources and get the data sources, which sensors we're going to be reading from, which equipment, PLCs, SCADA systems, databases, anything that is producing that data. We can sort out how we're going to get it and how we're going to breed it and get it into our sort of unified Pi system. And as we start to do that, we're going to be working through the security and access control. We want to think about that critically, understand what our requirements are around who can access the data, who can see the data, who can touch the data, what can change the data, ensuring that we're meeting our regulatory requirements around that data in our systems. And now we can start thinking through on the scalability and optimization of it. Are we collecting a crazy number of tags? Do we have adequate support from our infrastructure, from compute and storage and networking, to be able to scale this system to collect that data? Are there things that we can change or optimize? Different ways we can collect that data, different rates? Can we make it a better performing system, and can we reduce the cost of running it? And then, like our security and access control, our compliance and governance. That's another piece where we want to make sure we understand what the requirements are, and we implement the system in a way that meets those industry regulations and standards. Regardless of our sector, we have to ensure that all of that is met, so that when the time comes when an auditor or someone who is looking at your implementations critically, they can look at it and be confident that it meets all of their requirements. These are by no means, this order. This is not a checklist that is meant to happen in this order, but these are some very high-level points that we've identified over our implementations to help ensure that by the time you kind of get to the end of thinking through these things, that you have a great understanding of how this system is going to work in your organization and how you're going to be able to use it to be successful and make great business decisions.
Yeah, just to add to that, Chris, a lot of customers that I deal with, they simply just go ask the plant, right? The plant might say, hey, I don't have the data to make this decision, so I wasted this much product, right? I can't see what's going on, so I can't put that product on sale or schedule it faster or push it through the plant easier. So what we've done with a lot of customers is just kind of, have ourselves or Grantek's great partner to walk in and just to almost do like a survey. And you'd be surprised on how many things actually relate back to the data, not having the data, not having access to the data, or the wrong guy seeing the data, right? So, defining that objective, just do a heat map, just see how many times that everyone in the plant says that. And like you said, after you've got a definite problem, then you go through, do I have the network? Do I want to go to the cloud or not? Right? Those are questions you need to kind of figure out. And when you go to the cloud, then you have security, then like all these things kind of relate. But if you're just getting started, your plant probably has the need for this. Identify that need, create a budget with it, work with Grantek, figure out a kind of like a budget is within that, and then start working from there. That's how I'd say we'd start. The best spot to start anyways. So
Yeah, and I think that's the benefit of having this, the vendor support and community engagement, is working with integrators who have deployed these projects, who have gone through this to understand, what is a proper assessment of the facility that needs to be done in order to start off on the right foot. And that's where I feel collaboratively as a group, we can really work to help our customers, and how we've done that in the past. So once we've gotten started with our customers, what are some keys and tips for success as our customers are kind of working through their projects? Maybe we can go through those on this next slide.
Yeah, and that's a big one. These are, again, driven out of our experience and our knowledge in deploying these systems for our clients. User training and documentation is huge. Getting acceptance from the folks at the plants, the folks at the facilities who are using this, the best way to do that is to make sure that they know how to use the system, and having them trained and having them understand it, and having documentation and resources available for them to reference is a great way to help get that off onto a great start. Providing them with data visualization and analytics, information that is useful to them, information that helps them do their job, helps them monitor things in real time, and helps them look at historical operations of things and how things have behaved over time. Creating those reports and analytics that help people in your organization make great informed decisions that are driven from the information. Having documentation and knowledge sharing is phenomenal. Being able to document configurations and procedures and the best practices, and using that as part of that user training and documentation. It almost becomes like a little bit of a feedback loop. As things are identified for training, some new documentation can be created so that it can be referenced again later. Helping to foster that knowledge kind of in the organization, and really maximize how that the system works and the benefits to your users, the folks who are using the system day to day, and getting that feedback and then iterating on it. into the documentation, into the knowledge sharing, into the data vision analytics, using that feedback and using an iterative process to improve upon the system, add to it, and update it and make changes to it to make sure that it doesn't stagnate and become something that no one uses because it doesn't have what we need. Making our installation and configuration of the PI system done right, done as per the best practices, as per the way AVEVA recommends to deploy the system, ensuring that all the collectors and all the different components of the system are set up and operating correctly and efficiently. And then making sure that we're configuring any kind of data retention and storage policies to ensure compliance and to ensure kind of the most efficient use of storage and compute, so that we're meeting the requirements that the business has, but we're doing it in the best way possible. Having all of our data tagged and mapped, right? Assigning good, meaningful names. We can take data from systems that give us, the good old slicks, giving us registered names and numbers that we have to somehow turn into a useful name. Leveraging things like PI Asset Framework to have hierarchical structure to our data so that we can see it in a meaningful way and identify it easily. Making sure that any of the tags are mapped to their data sources correctly and the equipment, and it's all easy to understand and read. Once we have all of that, we can have that data start to be collected, and we can ensure that the data is flowing. We can ensure we have access to all the systems. We can test that and make sure that we're getting the data we expect, and we're seeing values that we expect. We're seeing that it's accurate, and that we can rely on the data integrity of the system, so that if we are challenged from a compliance or regulatory standpoint, we can fall back on that testing and ensure that everything is okay, and that we are confident in the integrity of how the system in its entirety functions. And then as an ongoing piece to that, we can monitor and maintain that system. We can check its health. We can make sure it's performing adequately. We can make sure it's not using resources that it shouldn't be. And then we can make sure that we're maintaining it and backing it up and applying updates as required to ensure that it's a safe, stable, and secure system, so that we can be confident and use it in the future and in an ongoing process to, again, I keep saying it, but help us look at that information and data and make great concrete business choices to improve the business, to save money, and to make more money.
Better data, better business outcomes.
Got
right? it. Awesome. Anything you wanted to add there, Jason,
No,
before we open it up to some
I
questions?
honestly think
for the group?
Chris, killed that. So he's hit it right on the money. So he's all good.
Awesome. Okay. So we're going to move forth into some questions. And again, folks, for those who are joining us today, please do use the chat function on the webinar platform to send through your questions. I know one of the questions that actually I've seen has come through was around AVEVA PI over another data historian. And I think we've really spoken to that well with the qualities of the AVEVA PI system. Anything else that you all wanted to add around why AVEVA PI over another historian, perhaps?
I can add some, when I hear that question, typically I think, historians can get the data very quickly. They have quality of the data. They have the algorithms to get it very quickly. And then in the case of PI, has a lot of, community and, 20 years of getting out all the bugs. So can you use another, historian, data logger, whatever? But when you do that, you're subjecting yourself to all of those problems that might occur, right? Whereas if you're buying this product, you're kind of solidifying, a past history and why all those big customers are using PI. That would be my statement. There is what I typically say.
Yeah, and to just piggyback onto what Jason's saying is, and I spoke to it a little bit previously in this presentation, is, time series data is not a tough problem to solve, and there's lots of ways of solving it. But AVEVA PI, and case in point, I keep referring to it by its previous name, has been around for a while. the system, the fundamental parts of the system are architected such that they are consistent and they are functional and they are performant, and they have been that way for a long time. They're updated and they're maintained and they're improved. And the ecosystem around all of that just grows and grows every year. So for sure, it's software. There's lots of ways to solve problems. We can use lots of different pieces of software to solve problems. But we found that AVEVA Pi is really a stable and consistent piece that you can rely on and that you know is going to do what it's supposed to do day in and day out. Just like the machineries in your plants, it's the same thing. It's a tried and true component that does what it says on the label, plus a lot more.
Awesome. Okay, we'll take maybe one more question. So we have someone asking here how the AVEVA Pi platform, how we've seen the AVEVA Pi platform enable future applications for data such as AI. So bringing us back to kind of the data model that we started with. Once we have the data in our AVEVA Pi platform, how can that enable applications for data such as AI?
You want to go, Jason?
Yeah, I can give that a shot. So as soon as you have, like you said, as soon as you have it in the Pi Historian, the AI can be applied to it. And we have a product that's asset-based AI. We have process-based AI. So those are the two different ones. And asset-based AI is machine learning. So a company like OPG, which is Ontario Power Generation here, they would take the data from a Pi server and then feed it to what we call advanced analytics, or formerly known as Prism. And that looks at all these different parameters, and it's all good, and it has pattern recognition, so it predicts that a fan blade is going to fall off a motor. Now, there's various levels of AI. There's basic AI, there's advanced AI that you put on a $4 million asset. So the good thing is, if you have that stable data and you've got it secured for a year's worth of data, you can pull it out and put it into these containers. Some people refer to them as data lakes. Process AI is another one that I've seen a lot, is like BrainCube and different processes that we have, including what you would see in Data Hub and some of the features that are inside of the cloud offerings we have. So those are, again, just piggybacked off, and that's to have a customer use AI to run a certain line versus another line, or not to burn baloney versus what do I do, what is AI telling me to do in that process. And those are all things we can explore outside of this conversation, but the key is to have the data set and ready to do that.
Yeah, getting that data, allowing you to predict, but then adding the extra level to be able to prescribe the recommendations, right? So excellent. Okay, guys. Well, I think that we're almost at time. Maybe one last question from me. I don't know, all this talk about pie. What's your favorite flavor of pie?
Wasn't ready for that one.
If it's cold, raspberry. If it's warm, apple. That's where I'm gonna stand.
I'm
Awesome.
an apple guy.
Yeah,
I'd say apple pie for sure.
And I'm a pumpkin gal myself. So, okay, guys, thank you again so much. Really appreciate your time and effort going into this. Thank you everyone who joined us on the webinar today. As a reminder, you will be sent a recording of the session, and you can see here we have our info@grantek.com. Please do feel free to send through any questions, and we look forward to speaking with you more about how we can help you with better data and better business outcomes using the AVEVA Pi platform. Thanks everyone.
Have a great day, guys.
Take care.